Hey guys, welcome to the Run to Win show, where we bring you inspiring stories, experiences, and trivia from interesting people who are a part of the running world. I'm your host Vinny Ajmera, and today we have with us a very suave, very intelligent, and very fit Nikhil Arora, Managing Director and Vice President of GoDaddy, who could pace runners for an entire half marathon and still chat with you without showing a hint of fatigue. But that comes as no surprise, given that Nikhil has completed over 25 full and half marathons in India, Asia Pacific, Middle East, Europe, and North America. He keeps things interesting by also participating in ultras and extreme fitness events like X-Warrior and the Devil's Circuit. Nikhil is actively involved in advising and mentoring startups and small businesses. He has been a serial innovator and helped launch several new businesses in his tenure at various organizations. Running reflects his personal journey to excellence, a continuous cycle of doing something new and exceeding his previous performances. In 2017-18, he pushed himself beyond running by completing 4 triathlons, including 2 back-to-back Ironman, 70.3 races in Dubai and Colombo. Listen in as he shares with us his running journey and some of his favorite running tips today. I am here with Nikhil Arora. Nikhil, thank you very much for talking to me and sharing your journey. Why don't you warm us up by telling us a little bit about yourself, like who you are, where you're from, and what is it that you do?
Great. So I am originally from Delhi. Grew up mostly in Delhi, Chandigarh. Moved at a very young age to the US and came back now almost 9 years back. Currently I run GoDaddy. I'm the managing director for GoDaddy, which is the largest online presence company in the world. And personally I think running has been my lifeline for the last 10 years since I moved back, and there are some stories about it. I'm happy to share them.
I would love for you to.
Sure. How
did it start and what are the various stories?
Yeah, so running for me had like 2 different life cycles. One was when I moved to New York, which was ages ago. My first job was actually delivering newspapers. I used to support myself going to college, so New York Times, which was the leading publication, was the only job I could do in the morning from like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then get to college during the day. And to do that job, I needed to, have a car, and the other ability was to be able to throw papers at different houses within a short amount of time. So that's when I actually got into running that time, because it helped me do my job better. So I would go into...
but you take it out of the car.
Yeah, so I'll go into an area which would be whatever, right, 3-4 kilometers. I'll park a car at a certain place and then carry them on my back and then run around the houses and throw them in. So that was, like my only way to survive, but it also forced me to get better physically running. And I really enjoyed it, and then that was it, and life moved on, and I started working in the US, and running kind of never came back until I moved back to India, which was about 9-10 years back. And I had 2 things. One, I thought I was on vacation, so I kept gaining weight because I kept eating like a Delhiite, going to late night parties and drinking. So suddenly I realized, I have a triple chin. Secondly, I used to fly a lot, so I had a nerve damage in one of my ears, and I got something called tinnitus. So, and I'm a sound sleeper. I like peace and quiet, and that buzzing noise used to irritate the hell out of me. So to kind of beat that, I remembered my old running days of newspaper. I said, okay, I need to get back to something to distract me, and I got into running, and then it just became less of a physical but more of a getaway from me from all this tinnitus business, and then it just took a life of its own.
And how has that served you with your tinnitus? Or
It's really helped me now learn to defocus on some things and focus on one thing, right? So defocus meaning, okay, when I'm out running, I had to learn to forget that and only focus on running. So when I come back to my normal life after running, it just helps me now to say, okay, it's there and it's always will there, but I don't need to worry about it, right? So it just increased my focus and distraction ability from tinnitus a lot. And then, of course, with running, you get all other wonderful benefits of community and making good friends and, staying in good shape and so on.
So we were talking earlier about how hard it is to also get invited nowadays for runners. Because friends after a point give up. How much of that has been a sacrifice for you, or how has that finally panned out for you?
I think I say like there are three things you do. There are three S's which you actually deal with when you run. One is your social life. You kind of do some compromise in your social life because people who run understand and people who don't think you're a maniac, right? So you kind of know people don't invite you to parties, they invite you to parties, you say, okay, you're going to not drink, or sometimes you have to pretend you drink and you put water and ice cubes and tell them it's vodka, and they think sometimes they buy it and sometimes they don't. So social life is one. Second is I think sleep. There's always this compromise. People say work-life balance or work-life family balance. At the end, there's nothing like that. You give something up, and you overload on one attribute and underload on the other. And in this way, you give up on sleep because work is work, family is family. So you're left with sleep. Not a ideal thing, but you do it. And the third is a bit on safety side, right? Because in Delhi, especially, you're running, so you kind of are dealing with nuances on the road. So managing, that is something you just need to watch out.
Of course, you've told us how you started, stopped, and then of course started for 10 years running now. What has kept this sustainable for you? What has made you do this so consistently now?
Yeah, so I think, if you struggled, like I was just reflecting the other day, I was reading something also, like if you've kind of struggled early in your life, which I did, like, going to New York and kind of getting through college and some hard times and all, right, you get used to struggle. Overcoming struggle gives you that high. And, when you get into running, what I liked about was struggling from like a 10K to half marathon to full marathon to ultra marathon. So that really kept me going because every time you keep raising the bar for yourself, you had a new struggle. And then there's a new desire to overcome that struggle. So that kept me going a lot, right? And then just maybe a year and a half back, I started plateauing out, and I actually wrote an article on saying that, okay, I was feeling like I'm not really pushing myself anymore. I'm just running. Yes, I do, half full. I get some PBs, but then what? And that's when I said, okay, I need to do something more. And that's when I started to decide to do the Ironman and kind of signed up for that. So I think it's just the place where you can go out and raise the bar for yourself a lot and then accomplish it. And the other thing is, I think when you do something physical, you feel like you've earned it, versus when you do something mental, you've earned it, but it's not that, that feeling.
And I think sometimes when you do mental things which are mentally taxing, you feel like you've earned your sleep, but then you lose your sleep. Right. So that's a catch-22. You said besides, of course, there's social and there's sleep and there's safety and then families. How do you juggle that? Like, how do you weigh that priority? Because running in itself, and when you say full and ultra in itself, is a completely different part-time job. And then you have your job and family. So how did you manage to balance this act, given that just now we had an incident where you lost your charge completely in the phone? So these things happen, and so how have you struck the balance where your wife has been supportive? And
it's always, I think each year has been different. Early years, everybody was very excited, at home because, you're getting medals, you're winning. I mean, not winning, meaning you're accomplishing something.
It's winning. If you finished, you won.
And, I would get them to come and cheer. Slowly that getting faded away, like, okay, you're going to go do this again. We're not coming to cheer you and so on, right? So one thing I did was started getting them into running. So I started getting my wife, to kind of start running and that helped because then she could at least relate to the high you get out of running. And that's why, she's out here today, like, okay, I get it. The other is, I think, you pick and choose different phases. Like if I start doing ultra marathons every year, it'll be crazy. Like for example, 2013 I went crazy. I did like 4 full marathons, 1 ultra. Like it was just the crazy year. But then I realized next year, like, okay, that was way too much and it took so much time away, and you realize, oh my God, you've kind of overloaded on one. So you kind of take some phases where you go high, some phases you kind of plateau out and can sustain it. But honestly, I don't think there is a happy medium. Reality is you work it out at home. And the problem is not about the running time. It's about when you get tired during the day, right? So it's less about like
You're always tired.
yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, you go in the morning, that's 4 hours, nobody's up from 4 to 8, good. But then it's the daytime, like, okay, or the nighttime, it's party time, right? And so that's when you have the struggles.
And how's the Punjabi food diet coming along?
Punjabi food is quite less for me. One thing I'm good at is a lot of discipline of what I eat. I have a kind of a good willpower, thankfully, where if I say, okay, I'm not eating any sweets, I'm not eating any paranthas, I'm not eating, that doesn't mean I don't eat them at all, but like I can give up for months, like what I don't want, and then kind of come back into some shape. Like for example, when I was training for Ironman, I actually gained more weight because you were, burning so much during the day, so you need to feed, and you realize like, okay, it's actually from a ideally looking perspective, you were not looking as fit as you would just going to gym 45 minutes a day. But those are things you accept and you do it. But Punjabi food is a weakness, but I tend to manage it successfully. So I'm a very easy person at home because the cook at home knows like I'm going to have my boiled eggs in the morning, I'm going to have my protein shake, and I have my grilled stuff, and that's about it.
Oh, I think it's tempting me to borrow your cook to at least understand what health food is. How typically does your work life now and the workout life balance out when you take on challenging feats like the Ironman? Because you could also be tired at work. Right?
Yes. Don't tell my boss that. Yes. So what I tend to do is like there are 3-4 things I've kind of tried to plan around work. So when I'm traveling, I would always pick a hotel which has a good swimming pool, which has a good gym. I research in advance and I look at running groups in that area, and I say, okay, I'm going to be there for a week. I'm going to connect in advance, and when I go there, I can just get on that, existing system. I even look at like airports, like if you travel to Heathrow Airport, if you just once you clear customs, there is actually a gym in the airport which is available. So if I have a 4-hour layover, I'll just carry my gym clothes and I'll just kill 2 hours in that gym there. So one, I plan these travels and all to say, okay, how can I do that? And second, I think I tend to overload over the weekend.
Right.
So weekdays is like moderate training, weekend becomes intense. So then at least you have more time during the day to kind of recover and so on. But Ironman was like, in a way, some of the locations which it took me on work was the only reason I learned swimming, because I was able to find good swimming coaches in those cities, because I didn't know how to swim, and in Delhi I couldn't find anybody who was willing to kind of teach swimming to a much older person, because it's harder to teach swimming when you're not that young, right? So I was able to find a couple of great coaches out abroad, and that's probably made my Ironman possible. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
When I listen to you, it almost comes across like you've just really got to have the will and then do whatever it takes to go all out and accomplish it. Because yes, I'm not sure how many people would really try to find a gym at the airport and do that research. I think that's really brilliant, because these are little things that we are okay to not think about and allow ourselves to slacken. But now that we know, and now that more people will know about this, I guess that will be one less excuse, because that's guilt then.
Yes.
So what are the kind of thoughts you have while running? Has there ever been path-breaking thoughts or ideas and learnings that you would have applied into your work life, for example? How has that translated for you?
Yeah, I think lots of them, right? I mean, for personal perspective, I think it gives you a lot of time to introspect about things, think about, especially after the first 10 kilometers, you get into a zone, which I would call it almost like a drunk zone, right?
Call it Zen. But
Zen.
Okay.
okay, that's a better, more sophisticated word.
See, branding does everything.
Yes, so the Zen zone definitely gets you to start thinking about things you neglect during your work life or family life, because it's just you and yourself running, right? And I think I also used to run. Now I don't use a lot of music, but I used to run on Sufi music. Now a lot of people used to ask me like, how can you run on Sufi music, because Sufi actually mellows you down and people are on the high beat. But for me it was more of a way to take the spirituality of running, connecting with the spirituality of Sufi music, and it really was a very good combination for me.
Well, I'm hoping at some point you'll also run with Run to Win, but okay.
Yes, for sure. And so I think you learn things like humility, right? Because one day you'll have a brilliant day running, and next day you'll have a not that good a day running, and you realize, okay, it just happens, and you learn to appreciate others' effort, right? Because when you look around, it's not about the PBs or it's about the effort people have put in, right? So it's humility. You get to become very, I would say, patient, because it's like you just have to put in the cycles, right? Running is not like, okay, you want 2-3 days of training. You have to put in like days and days and weeks and weeks of training. So you learn about being patient, but being disciplined, right? It's just putting the hours. Otherwise, there is no shortcut to it. Focus, and you talked about will, right? I mean, willpower is very important, because waking up in the morning, especially when you travel and you don't have a lot of similar friends to run with, then it takes a lot more will to say, okay, we get out of the bed and you're going to go out and run while it's not your own neighborhood kind of stuff, right? So humility, patience, the discipline, focus, and also the most important thing I've learned from a business translation, that you break it down in small steps, right? When you're doing a goal, break it down into small increments. Otherwise, you can either become very demotivated or you can just give up, right? So taking this time to say, okay, hey, it's week by week, day by day, kilometer by kilometer, you're making progress, then you feel good, and start small, but then keep building upon it.
What have you discovered about yourself in this journey?
One, I think I've learned a lot about my own ability to take my will to execution. I didn't think I had that much. Like, I always knew I had a willpower. I mean, early days, the struggles in life kind of helped me get there. But I didn't think I had that in more sports, to be honest. And this will has just helped me, like, okay, like swimming, for example. I wouldn't have had the confidence to sign up for an Ironman not knowing swimming had it not been for running, because I was never like a long distance runner, right? So that got me trained. Second, I think also is it's just confidence. It just gives you that ability that you've completed something, right? And in life nowadays, you don't complete many things, right? I mean, a lot of things are dependent on other people, including at work, including at home, including at outside life. This is like one thing you can control, and you feel like, okay, I've completed something, so it gives you that confidence day in, day out, right? It's not a one-time thing. Every time you go out and you feel like, if you go in the morning, you've done 5K, you feel good that you've finished something from start to finish. So that confidence of being able to finish something. And then lastly, I think the ability to motivate others, and like, I got motivated from others. Like, I met few people who used to run and they inspired me, and now I meet other people and I try to inspire them. And you underestimate your own ability to inspire people. Actually, everybody does, because we all believe inspiration is only coming from maybe Nobel Prize winners or perhaps some very accomplished sports people, and actually that's not true. For an amateur average person, the inspiration comes from people like all of us, right? And I think that ability to take that and being able to impart that on others is a gift all of us should use. So that's I learned that, hey, somebody did it for me, I should do it for others, and so on.
Which brings me to the main reason why you're here today. You're not just here as a half marathoner, you're here as a pacer. So how did that come about, and how were you feeling before the race, and how are you feeling now? 3-part question.
Yes, so Pacer, I think, was a wonderful gift I got from ProCam, because I think it was my 10th year this year, and I felt like this would be a great way to kind of give back. Like, my first half marathon was about the same time, 2:25-ish, which I paced today. So I felt like, okay, I remember that feeling of joy, but also I remember the feeling of struggle and how I got through. I watched somebody's flag and I followed somebody, and that ability to kind of give back was my biggest incentive. I thought of doing a 2-hour bus or 2:10 bus, but I felt like that's going to be a segment where everybody's trying to kind of, already they are there, right? This is, the 2:25, 2:30s, people are trying to get there. So that was one.
Ouch.
Why?
It just made me feel so horrid about myself. Like, yeah, but we are still trying to get there because I belong to that bus technically.
Well, it's wonderful, right? Because the pure joy exists there. Like, I felt the joy today, because everybody who ran with me today, or people who didn't run with me but came later, like, I remembered, oh my God, this was why you start running, right? This was really the true accomplished one, right? Not about, like, now everybody asked you the question, what was your PB? What was your time? It was a horrible question people ask. Like, okay, did you enjoy the run? Did you have fun? And so on. Yes, timing is timing, but that's, that should not be the first question. So feeling was really of great humility and really happy to kind of give back. It was touch and go for me. I just flew in from San Francisco yesterday morning. I had a 26-hour flight, and I had been not doing much of a training. So for me, my worry was like, I didn't have sleep. I was kind of dehydrated. So I was just hoping like, okay, the body would hold through. Okay. And thankfully it did. It was just, I would say, truly the joy of having others finish today was what I really felt, right? And the first time I wasn't worried about my time, which was actually liberating. Because it's just about others' time, right? I mean, because even if you could go fast, you're not going to go fast because you have a responsibility. And sometimes you're going slower than what you need to. So it taught me something new, right? Like sometimes to go, like just from a leadership point of view also, right? That if you have to take your team along, you have to, have everybody come along with you. You just have to take a different speed and velocity.
Fabulous. We are going to go into the sprint round now. And that's just a bunch of rapid fire questions where you can give me one word, one line answers. So my first one is, what thought, thing or person inspires you to still run every day?
Actually, my mother.
Okay. Second, what is the one running gear that is extremely critical for you that you feel lost without?
Nowadays is my kneecap. It was different before. It used to be my bandana, but but my kneecap now because of injuries. Yes.
Accessories galore. You had a chance to don another one. What's one must-run race?
Monster raid. Comrades is something in South Africa. I haven't done it. It's always been on the list for me. And I want to do one again. I did one before, which is called Hood to Coast. It's in Portland in the US. So it's a 199-mile team relay. So you can be 4 people, 6 people, and it starts from morning and ends like in 24-hour cycle. I did it once. It's quite humbling and very tough, and I do want to do it again as well. Because it's you're doing almost full marathon, but you're doing in a team. So you're rotating in and out, and it's like no music allowed. It's at night time. It's empty road, so it just forces you to go into reserves to really being able to push through.
Even as you were describing it, I could actually visualize this whole experience. And I think it must be insane. But I don't know, when will I cross the 21 mark?
Oh, you will.
Or beyond, actually. Yeah. What kind of runners do you run away from?
It's a very tricky answer, but I'll say it right. There's a lot of social media runners nowadays, right? So I tend to stay away from social media runners. I used to also share mine, and now I feel guilty sometimes because I used to share for genuine reasons. Now I'm like, oh my God, am I becoming like that? Like, okay, like every morning people post their training schedules, which is okay, but good for them. But like, I really don't need to know every day.
It looks the same every day.
right. So yes, so I that becomes a bit, and now in reality, the entire social media, everybody's now connected on, like all your social connections become runners, and some are like these kind and some are not. So I tend to now ignore the one kind. So,
okay.
Yeah.
If you weren't running,
if
then what would it be?
Oh, if I were running. A sport, meaning what would be? I think I love to become a great swimmer. I've managed it, but I've realized it's so technical, like from your hand movement to your breathing to how you're coming out of the water. Like there's so many nuances, and it's so. If I was a kid, I would love to have become a great swimmer, right? So that would be one, and also it's a great sport, right? Because there's less injuries and you can keep going, especially in open water.
What's the one reason today that you run for? What's that one why of yours?
See, now I run for just, I think, keep unpacking my own self, right? Because you know a bit about yourself, but you always are learning about yourself. So what I've found is over the course of the 10 years of running, I've always, something new about you is coming out. And I think the only way to kind of be able to find something new is to kind of try some different running events. The same ones don't get you the thing, but like for example, pacer being one. Like today I learned about slowing down is not that easy. You have to really readjust. So I think to me it's just about like self-discovery a lot, right? It's just like, and it's a lifelong process because you just never know. There's a research which says that most of us don't even know 30% of our strengths.
Is there anything that you would like to tell the listeners vis-a-vis where they can find out more about what you do and about your activities?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I do share a lot of my both personal or professional blogs and write-ups or videos. So do look me up. I'm Nikhil Arora on LinkedIn. There is one other Nikhil Arora who used to be the technology advisor to President Obama, so please don't look him up. Look myself up. He's much more famous. And then I also have a Facebook business page which is quite active, where I just use a lot of, again, sharing of videos, personal things I do. So those are two places to kind of look me up.
Also page Nikhil Arora.
Yeah. Luckily the other Nikhil Arora is not on that, so there will be hopefully one of them. But I do tend to share both my running things or things we do for charity, using running as a platform, or any other inspirational things about other people, right? I tend to also write about other people who are doing the same things.
Brilliant. I want you to imagine now that you've finally tried several races and you've done the Hood to Coast race in Portland, and this is a race that you've really wanted to prepare for. You wanted to go back because it's so interesting and so intriguing, but this time round the number of runners are huge, and also it's become a far more mass participative sport, and also there's a huge amount of audience. And when you've participated in this race and you've run, you've prepared yourself so well because this is what you were waiting for. So now I want you to visualize this, and you're running this race and you're all set, your focus is on the goal, you're going, like you said, you've broken them down, and before you know it, you've actually made podium finish. And now as you're there, you see that this has ended up becoming the biggest race, and there are hundreds and thousands of people waiting out there to cheer for you, and they want to hear from you. At this point, if I had to tell you that, Nikhil, you have one message in 1 minute to share with everyone out here, any one life lesson, what would that be?
That's a tough one. So the biggest lesson would be, it's not how good you are, but how great you can be. And greatness lies in all of us. I don't think we need people to actually instill greatness in us. Greatness is in all of us. We are gifted by birth. It's just about how do we unpack that. And sometimes things like running or sports unpacks it. Sometimes other life incident unpacks it. But it's just that ability to unpack that greatness. And in this example, if hypothetically, I do get a podium finish, touch wood, that gets unpacked through some external force, because we can't on our own unpack our own greatness, because we never think about us in that way, right? We always think about other people. They are great, they are better, they are this, right? And you need some external force or external event or external person, and I think that's about right. And so to kind of go to that greatness, you will only get there if you keep trying something which is outside your comfort area. So it's not how good you are, how great you can be, and greatness is going to be coming from something which you not do today.
Fabulous. So it's not how good you are or how great you can be, but greatness will come out of trying something new and pushing the boundaries. I think it's a brilliant takeaway for everyone. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Hope to listen now to your podcast regularly.
Yes, I hope so too. Thanks for being here and for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, make sure you leave a rating and review and share it with your family and friends. Till the next one, happy running.